Do you ever feel in Battlefield that you're kind of stuck in a rut? You've got some areas of gameplay that you're really good at, you've got other areas that you're not so good at, but nothing really kind of changes. You're kind of staying at the same standard. Well, in today's Training with Addy video, I've got a tip for you to really help you analyse your own gameplay and become a better player. So, soldier, let's get training. Well, greetings ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Training with Addy video. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different to the videos I have released before in the Training with Addy series, because this isn't actually footage of my gameplay. This is footage of one of the people I often play with, Bishy, because I was getting a bit concerned that I was stuck in a rut. I was doing the same things over and over again, getting some very nice scores along the way, but not necessarily challenging myself to improve, or in fact perhaps running out of ideas on what particularly to improve. So what I decided to do was to ask some of the people that I play with on a regular basis to send me unedited footage of themselves playing modes that we played together, and even if possible to play matches where we'd actually played together. And I'm going to show you footage from two different matches here, and I'm not in the first one, but I am in the second, to kind of see what we were doing together and what they did differently to me when we were in exactly the same place. And the results I found have actually been quite eye-opening for me, and this is something I would strongly recommend that you do. And if you've got a friend that you often play with, get them to upload some footage to YouTube or stream it to Twitch or something like that, and just have a look at how they play and ask yourself, as they're playing it, what are they doing that is different to what would you do? And when they do it, ask yourself the second question: is that better, or is it worse, or is it just different? Because remember that just being different is fine. But I've noticed in several places where several locations, for example, where we might just take different routes across certain areas or use our guns in certain different ways. And I'm gonna, in this video, I'm just gonna highlight some of the things that I've noticed from watching one of my buddies play that I think is going to help me play, and hopefully, if you guys watching it as well, will also, pick up some hints and tips as well. Now, the first thing I really noticed from watching Bishy play is just how slowly he moves. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's just it's differently. I tend to be a sprinter, whereas Bishy tends to be a far more he tends to kind of think things through and clear areas before he moves in. Second thing I noticed was as he went round that corner, he knew there was a guy on his left because of the minimap and the firefight, but he started firing way before he went round that corner. You might want to rewind that and have a look what he did. I mean, I know all about pre-firing, and I might have started firing kind of as I went round the corner, but he was firing before he went through, which of course at that close distance would have put some suppression on that guy, even before he had seen him, which is an interesting idea and something that I could maybe think about doing when I know I'm going to be tackling someone very, very, very closely. But back to the movement idea. Now, I tend to move around quite fast. I don't sprint around corners, I peek around corners, but I peek around them quite fast. Whereas what you'll see Bishy doing in quite a lot of this footage is scanning areas, just like he's doing now. He'll get himself in a safe position and he'll find targets and just kind of scan across to kind of find those targets and take them out. Now, Bishy absolutely loves the AN-94, which is one of the other reasons why I asked him to send me this footage of, because I've struggled with this gun, because I find that it feels a bit like a sniper rifle in that idea that it fires slowly and does well at long range, but I find that it just doesn't kill quick enough. It doesn't kill quick enough for me. But one of the things I've noticed that Bishy does is he fires a lot faster than me, both at long range and at short range. I tend to kind of wait for the recoil to fully reset, so I tend to fire with a kind of like a do, but he's actually kind of going a lot faster than that with like a do, and when there's someone, when it's kind of like you're both pointing at each other, both firing at the same time, he must be absolutely bashing his mouse into oblivion, because the speed he fires is far faster than I would consider. So this is a gun I'm definitely going to go back and check out again. He also varies his speed bearing on how far the target is away. That was a slightly slower burst there. I mean, of course, I'm saying all this stuff, and he might watch this video and kind of go, I didn't know I did that, alright, that's not deliberate. But a lot of Battlefield at the end of the day becomes kind of subconscious in the end, because many players like us kind of play so much that it's difficult to sometimes know what we do, which is why I think that looking at someone else's footage actually kind of helps us to analyse what I would have done differently. Like, I'm imagining if I was playing here, would I turn right, would I turn left, would I kind of peek forward? Certainly I wouldn't go this slowly up the hill, and actually by him going up this slowly, he's kept the majority of his body covered, and managed to take out 2 targets while keeping himself relatively safe, although he did take 1 bullet there. Now, if we just skip ahead a little bit in the video here, this is something I never do. Put myself in a position behind some sort of cover and just check all of the common places snipers and other guys very kind of slowly like this. And certainly I probably wouldn't do it looking down scope. Part of that might be because I tend to use the Cobra sight or the Hollow, whereas he's or the red dot sight, whereas Bish is using the red dot, which does give slightly stronger magnification. And for a map like this one, the Caspian Border TDM map, there is going to be a lot more distance firing there. Now, that was an absolutely fantastic kill. He got that guy in 2 shots, and that guy probably only felt 1 before he died, and then he quickly got a second there. So possibly that was before he was actually aiming very, very deliberately at the head of the person, not just a kind of quick panicked fire at the body. So perhaps I need to kind of look at my own shooting style and think about aiming for the head even more than I do so already. Interesting there to see a nice combination of aiming from the hip and then aiming down sight for different range targets. The other thing I noticed about his gameplay is that I often get stuck in a bit of a rut of going round either clockwise or anti-clockwise in TDM maps. I don't know how many of the others of you do this as well, but I'd like to go in circles. But Bish at this point has actually battled his way all the way around one way, and when he's seen kind of targets ahead or the area looks a bit awkward, he's actually just turned around and started going back the way he came. I think part of that was that he noticed a lot of his teammates were kind of coming up ahead of him, so if there's teammates there, the chances are the enemy isn't, and so he's turned around. And in fact, he's actually just turned around again for a second time while after having a look on the bigger map. And again, that's something that I don't necessarily do often enough. Really kind of think about you know, should I change the direction that I'm circling the map? And actually the score that Bish gets at the end of this round is something along the lines of 22-2 or something like that, so it definitely works. Now there again is something I never do. You might want to replay that a little bit again. He fired 2 shots into that guy when he could see him, and then the guy ran behind a tree, and at that point that would be the moment I would go, well, I've lost that target, I haven't got him, never mind. But Bish kept on firing into that tree again and again and again and again, and he got him. He kind of traced where the guy would be running if he continued to move, and he managed to get that kill. So obviously that wouldn't work if the guy ran behind a building, but there are a lot of targets in Battlefield that are can either be destroyed or that you can shoot through. So things like mesh, things like trees, those kind of paper crates that kind of explode. So perhaps I need to kind of think about have I lost my targets always when they run behind something. Again, the speed that Bishy's firing here with the AN-94 is far faster than I would. I always assumed that you had to kind of let that gun properly reset back into position if you wanted to get your shots on target, but that's clearly not the case. At the speed he was firing there, it didn't even look like the gun is back in place, but those bullets are still going on target enough for him to be able to get those kills. So again, I can adjust and improve my gameplay there as well. Let me just show you one more example of that faster firing with the AN-94. Again, we're going to have a target that runs out here, and it really looks to me like all of Bishy's shots are just going above the head of that guy. And if you replay that bit, you'll see it over and over again. But he's just firing away, and the guy goes down in 4 or 5 shots. So again, I can get myself stuck out of a rut, go back to a gun that I perhaps stopped using, and think about, are there ways that I could be using it differently? Or to be blunt, am I using it wrong? And I think sometimes we have the way that we use certain weapons, or the way that we've kind of learned to play, and actually there are alternative ways of using guns. You can fire things faster, you can counter recoil in different ways, you can play more defensively. I mean, nearly all of the situations that Bishy gets himself into here, he's got the majority of his lower body behind some sort of cover, be it maybe a hill, maybe a building or a rock. But I tend to kind of run forward and get myself into the middle of them. But by hanging back, he's just letting these guys come to him, and actually he's I think he's being a bit lucky on some of these, but he's actually getting kill after kill after kill by actually sitting back, taking his shots from a distance, and letting them come to him and taking them down. But of course this technique is also a two-way process as well. By looking at his footage, I can also give him some ideas as well. Now at this point he gets shot from the left, but continues to focus on the target that's directly in front of him that may or may not have seen him, and before you know it, that target that got him from the left has actually come up behind him and finished him off. So one other advantage of looking at other people's footage is you can learn from them, but you can also say to them, hey, have you thought about checking out this, or did you realise this, you made this mistake there, because that can help them with their gameplay as well. So just before we move on to the second clip, a brilliant round by Bishy that I've learned a lot from. Now our second round comes from a TDM on Sane Crossing, and just to be extra confusing, I'm actually in the TeamSpeak at the same time, so as well as my voice kind of commentating over this, you've also got my voice coming through giving Bishy kind of targets to aim for and things like this. Now I will openly confess to this particular round, we were those guys. We were the guys that holed ourselves up in this building and we didn't move, and I must say I don't really mind that. I think that most of the TDM matches are designed in such a way that where there is a kind of a defense spot, that map then comes about trying to get them out, and I quite enjoy the challenge of getting people out of a defensive position and then kind of taking that defensive position for yourselves. But I will say that as you watch this footage, you will notice that we do not leave the building, and we actually end up with more or less the perfect round. I think we managed to revive each other every single time, so we ended up with no official kills. Now, but again, I'm learning that the way I play isn't necessarily the only way to play. Like, so we actually both defended this building together, so in theory you would expect the gameplay to look very, very similar, but actually it's not. Bishy stands a lot further back than I do. He often kind of shoots almost from the stairs, and when he's shooting out of the windows he doesn't kind of press himself right up against them to get maximum visibility like I tend to. He actually tends to just kind of peek over the lip of the window as far as he needs to see the target, which of course makes him a lot more protected. Now that probably means that I see a lot more targets, because it's all kind of like swings and roundabouts, you know, advantages and disadvantages. It probably means I see the targets more, but it probably means that I end up dying more, and actually you'll probably see in this video that most of the deaths seem to come my way rather than his. And again, I've noticed that in Bishy's play he spends a lot more time looking down the site, looking at those common places where he's likely to see people, and he scans that left-hand alleyway multiple times above the white boxes around the edge of the buildings, going across into the left alleyway there, strafing left and right slowly. I think the way I play is I kind of wait to see where the enemy is and then go to it, whereas Bish tends to kind of prepare for where the enemy might be and kind of cut them off in advance. And I'm not saying necessarily that one way is better or worse, but I think again it's always interesting to think about how do other people play and how can I incorporate the advantages of that into my play there. And again here you see how far Bish pulls himself back against the wall. You know, he's really not putting himself, he's not allowing himself to be exposed at all, but keeps moving, keeps changing location. And that's perhaps another slight difference between the way we play. I will tend to stay in one position, and if I see a target I'll stay in that position until I get that target, which probably means that I get a kill more often. But Bishy will see a location, and if he doesn't get it, he moves on. Just like here, he didn't get that kill, but he's moved on to a different location, which probably then again manages to protect him. And one of the things I've often noticed about our scores is that myself and Bishy often get quite similar amounts of kills, but my amount of deaths is nearly always higher. And again, this is probably another one of the reasons for it, the fact that he's constantly protecting himself, constantly looking for different angles on his targets, looking to kind of clear certain areas before moving on, and making doubly sure that there is no kind of snipers or long-range targets in there before he moves on. Now, I am absolutely not saying, before I sound like I'm kissing butt too much, I'm not saying that Bish is the greatest player on earth. I'm sure he'd be the first to admit that he's not, and neither am I, but that doesn't mean that I can't learn from the strengths in his gameplay, and that doesn't mean that he can't learn from the strengths in my gameplay. So, my strong recommendation for you today is, if you're stuck in a rut, get some people that you play with regularly and exchange unedited footage. Now, because one of the disadvantages about some of the other YouTubers is they'll often pick the clips of them doing really well, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, I love watching YouTube videos of guys just getting kill streak after kill streak, which is great, but I'm sure that they must play for quite a long time to get those amazing video clips. So what's really nice about looking at this unedited footage is seeing how they move when there's no enemies around. You know, how exactly do people get around the map? What mistakes did they make that led to their deaths, and things like that. I mean, there's just so much to kind of learn from different aspects of gameplay. So get a buddy, exchange footage with that buddy, watch it through, give each other feedback, and try and help each other become better players. I do hope you've enjoyed this training with Addy video, and of course a massive thanks to Bishy for recording this, uploading the footage and allowing me to use it on my channel, so thank you to him. And if you've enjoyed the video, please do give the video a like, and I'm more than happy to talk about some of the suggestions for improving our play in the comments section, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.